Good morning, everybody. This is a novelty. Those of you that know me know I'm not quiet, so using a microphone is quite unusual for me. Don't normally get one, but nevertheless, here we are. So I'm the warm-up act. We've got some really great speakers following on from me, but I wanted to start the proceedings today really by talking about something which I've spent an awful long time thinking about over the last 20 odd years really, where I've been dealing with ITIL and IT service management, which is about the fact that it's not just about the service desk. I have spent many, many years, it feels like, saying to people that IT service management is most definitely not just how we deal with things when they go wrong. And I had a bit of a sleep this morning, a few Saturdays ago. As you can see there, 10 to 6 on a Saturday morning going, I need something to start my presentation with. And I figured this was probably a good way to start it. Because that is a question. How many of you have done any presentations where you have woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning going, what is my opening line going to be? Yeah, I can see a few smiles out there. And the question really led to one word, which may seem like an odd choice. But nevertheless, I actually think it is really, really important. The word I struck upon was irrelevance. Not the first one that would probably spring to mind, folks. Let's be honest. Why irrelevance? Well, because, as it suggests there, I've seen a lot of products come and go. And I seem to have spent an awful lot of time over the last 20 years saying to people, is what we do actually delivering value to our customers? Is it actually meeting their needs? Is service management seen as being something which will achieve that? Or are we just dealing with something, there's a phrase I saw in an article published recently on Mosaic. Are we just doing failure demand? Now I looked at that and went, I don't for 1 minute think that's all we're doing. I think we're doing far, far more than that, but it acted as a bit of a spur really. I certainly thought relevance of what we're doing seemed really, really key. Yeah. I mean, I started in IT 30 odd years ago now. Just to get a sense of the room, who remembers Novell? Oh, blimey. That's not back. There's one or two of you smiling at that going, I really wish I didn't have to put my hand up for that one. I thought Novell NetWare would be my career. I really did. I was 22. What did I know then? Things have moved on a little bit from that. Yeah. Just goes to show what we think is relevant now isn't always going to be relevant going forwards. So a lot of what I spend my time talking about when I'm talking about IT service management, when I'm talking about ITIL, is actually about how do we make sure what we're delivering is and remains relevant to our customers and the people that are in receipt of our services, folks. So, and this really has been 20 years. I actually think IT service management and ITIL in particular has never been more relevant. Some of you will have seen Ashley's lovely stands outside with the tagline at the bottom of the ITIL piece there, the language of growth. We're not talking about just running a service desk anymore, folks. We haven't been for a very long time. We're talking about something which is much, much broader. It's actually something which should be across the whole of the organization. Something which we want to start with at that much, much higher, much more strategic level of thinking, folks. Some of you might recognize this. If any of you have done any work in the space, any of the courses, the idea that thinking and working more strategically starts with the organization, starts with the business. From that, we can try and understand what our service and our product strategy is going to look like. So we're going to talk a little bit about, just a little bit, you understand, about version 5. And if any of you have already had an opportunity to have a look at version 5, you will already be aware, folks, that we're looking at an integrated service and product strategy now. We're not just looking at things purely from a service perspective, and this is good. Yeah. I seem to spend an awful lot of my time these days talking about DevOps. Let's just have a look out at the room now. So how many of you are working in DevOps environments nowadays? Yeah, excellent. So, and if you're aware of DevOps, working in DevOps environments, then you'll already be thinking and working on product strategy, not just service strategy. Of course, one of the challenges is we can talk about being strategic, we can talk about engaging with the wider organisation. One of the big challenges that I think we face is that we're not always seen as actually operating in that space, folks. So with thanks to a long-standing member of the community, Paul Wilkinson, I've got a few of these ABC of ICT cards for you, which I think are vaguely humorous. I don't know if any of you have seen these before, but yes, is IT seen as a value-add partner to the organisation? And does that start at the top with the strategic thinking that we may go through, folks? This diagram is one I've been using for many, many years now to try and remind organisations about the fact that ITIL covers a much, much, much broader base than a lot of people think it does, and why we should be thinking about things more strategically. This diagram is intended to try and remind us that depending on the role we sit in the organisation, there is something for us within the framework. All the way from the top of the IT service organisation, all the way down to that operations team and the service desk there, folks. This may not come as any great surprise to some of you, but it does in some cases. You look at that diagram and say, oh, I didn't realise it covered that or this. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the diagram with you. Hopefully that's enough time for you to see, folks, that we really do go top to bottom from a strategic perspective, all the way down to that service desk. But I want to talk about the top level, really. And I want to put it in the focus of what I think a lot of you are all here for. I had a look at the post-it notes earlier on that some of you have been good enough to actually write on. And I think version 5 is definitely uppermost in some of your minds. Looking at the room out there, I'm just wondering if there's anybody who's not aware of version 5. I'm going to take it that you're all probably aware of it. So now we're going to be looking at IT service management from a slightly more strategic perspective. Got a couple of models that I want to use to try and illustrate that as we go through this session, folks. And I'm going to be coming back to version 5 as we go through those different models, just to try and get a sense of where ITIL 5 comes in and how it can help us adopt and adapt service management into our organisations at that level. With that in mind, why ITIL version 5? It's been a few years since we got ITIL version 4, ITIL 4. Some of the messages in 4 are just as, if not more relevant now than they were then. The whole point of this session, in many respects, was for me to talk about the fact that ITIL is for the whole of the organisation, folks. It's not just about IT anymore. Creating services, creating products. I've spent 20 years trying to say to people, we're all service organisations. It doesn't matter what industry we're in. I come from Worcester. Yeah. Some of you may be, who's got a Worcester Bosch boiler in their homes? Anybody? There's a few of you. They're a service organisation. They do all the same sorts of things that we do, folks. But they don't necessarily, outside of IT, speak the language of ITIL. Why not? Yeah? We're doing the same things. Yeah? We're taking calls from customers. Yeah? We're creating products. It's exactly the same thing, folks. ITIL version 5, one of its key gains for me is the alignment with the life cycle of a service and a digital product. We're not just talking about IT service management. As we're going to see in a moment, we're going to be looking at the new integrated service and product life cycle that exists within version 5. Those of you that have worked with, let's just get a sense of the room a minute. Any of you go back to ITIL version 1? Crikey. Right, so you're the winners. You go back further than I do. Version 2? Yeah. Version 3? How many of you lucky people came to it just with 4? Well, a few of you. Okay. All of that knowledge and understanding that you've built up over the years in those different versions, a lot of it remains relevant. It didn't just become something which wasn't of any use to us folks. Particularly version 3 and ITIL 4, we're building on what's come previously, but it brings it up to date. The framework is AI native. I'm not going to say anything more about AI. We've got our lovely colleagues from PeopleCert that are going to be talking about AI governance later. This is why I said I was the warm-up act. Yeah, you're really all here for the AI piece, aren't you, folks? Let's be honest. Now, we don't just talk about automation from an AI perspective, of course. Particularly, I believe the influence of DevOps and the degree of automation that now comes to service and product management, which that approach and others bring with it, is very much reflected within ITIL nowadays. And in particular, one of the changes that reflects that, I believe, is this idea of the new integrated product and service lifecycle, folks. So this graphic here illustrates an integrated approach to delivering both services and products, which is, I think, easy to understand, easy to apply, practically, is something which organizations are, first of all, always doing, best practice, rear view mirror stuff. So this is found to work, it's road tested. Rather than seeing it as an end-to-end, a start to finish, I chose the diagram which actually shows us the life cycle as more of an iterative approach that goes around and around constantly and consistently within the organization to not only deliver but improve products and services as well. It's one of the big, I think, really big changes in ITIL version 5, which, when I first saw it, really made me go, this is brilliant. Yeah, this really reflects what is going on within organizations, what are they actually using, and how we're seeing the influence of some of these other frameworks really being reflected in a really valuable way within the framework, folks. One of the things which inevitably we're going to talk about with ITIL is going to be value. After all, it's why we're here, it's what we do, deliver value to our organizations. For a long time, we've talked about value in a way which I personally believe has been about enabling a conversation with the organization. When we talk to customers, we say, we want to deliver value from IT services. What does value mean to them? Do they understand? Do we understand? Trying to frame that conversation using words like utility and warranty, the functionality of the services, how they're delivered with the warranty and the assurance of delivery. This idea has been expanded in really useful ways in version 5. Yes, we've still got utility and warranty that we talk about, but experience, folks. Such a key part of actually delivering value to organizations. I've lost track of the number of times I've stood up in front of audiences like yourselves and said, if people don't actually want to use our services, they're not going to get any value from them. And now that we live with a service environment which is digitally based, where we've got arm's length engagements, we don't necessarily know our customers as intimately as we might have done in the past, folks. Delivering that excellent experience and engaging customers is so much more important. And it always has been important, but I think it's perhaps more in our collective consciousness now. Another big aspect when it comes to the value, which is written all the way through the framework now, is the sustainability element. It was an additional module, but it is now written all the way through the framework. It's expected that we should be thinking in more sustainable ways about delivering services, folks. So, there's a question for you. What does value mean in your organizations? Just have a think about that for a moment, folks. What's the question on the bottom there? Do you know what the value is of what's being delivered, folks? Yeah. What does investing in IT service management mean? What does investing in services mean? What should that mean to your organisation if they adopt and adapt service management? How many of you have actually had that conversation about what value looks like from your services within your organisations? Yeah. Can I ask? Yeah. Did you come to a conclusion?
I work for the civil service, so you can take what you want.
I was about to say, I'm not entirely sure what I should do with that one, I'm afraid.
I come from a private background. I tutored in, so it was a bit of a shock with all those conversations.
I rather feel like we should baseline that one there. Although I'll pick it up with you later. We talk a lot about value. I think expanding the idea of value so that we see that value is gained from services not just through the traditional utility and warranty, but particularly experience and sustainability are really, really key improvements to the way that we think and look at value within organisations, folks. Looking at the sustainability bit, this is a model which can shape our service management strategy, which some of you may well have seen before. It's been used within the ITIL canon now for a little while. And I think it reflects something which has been very much on organisations' minds for a long time. How do we deliver a strategy to deliver services that are meaningful, but also align with these goals more effectively? The triple bottom line strategy, yes, managing finances effectively, being sustainable. Not every organisation is about profitability, but we do nevertheless ultimately all need finances in order to run, of course. Corporate social responsibility as part of our service delivery strategy. Some of you, I'm sure, will have engaged as part of your strategies with an understanding of things like passing equipment on charitably to other organisations, donating time, making that part of the overarching service and product strategy as we develop it, rather than thinking of it as an afterthought. And of course, our environmental stewardship considerations, folks. Yeah, designing products, designing capabilities that add value to our organisation, while thinking about things like, well, one of the most basic measures that some people who design data centres might go with, folks. Yeah? Compute power per watt drawn at the socket. Literally, are we getting what we should be getting from the energy that we're consuming? Yeah? Before we even get into things like water. Water's been a bit of a consideration of late. Some of you will have seen there was lots of reporting towards the back end of last year. Lots of people talking about the amount of water that the big data centres for AI were consuming. So that's just two considerations if we're thinking about environmental stewardship, folks. Quick straw poll. How many of you here see those elements as being key pillars of your strategic decision making currently within your organisations now? Yeah, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, few of you. Yeah. So I was going to say, thinking about the university without wishing to take too much away, Faith, very much so. I shall leave that one there. So the triple bottom line approach is something that I feel quite strongly about. I think it's really important, which is why I wanted to include it in the slide deck. Yeah, in terms of actually getting organisations to think about how we design and develop both products and services that can allow us to achieve those goals in line with our overall organisational strategy. It's not the only model we're going to be looking at this morning, but it is the first one, and I wanted to make sure we got that one out there nice and early so that you folks could start thinking about that one. Now, the word I started with was relevance or irrelevance. I'm going to come back to that theme, because the main section of my presentation this morning is around a model that some of you may have seen, but many of you may not have seen, which is the Treacy and Wisama 3 strategic foci model. Is there anybody out there who's actually aware of this one, come across this one? reason that I picked on this, when I was thinking about the theme for this morning's session, I was thinking about what would engage, hopefully, what would get people thinking about how we can be more strategic and see IT service management as a strategic tool to enable value, not just that responds to failure demands that I so disagreed with from the Mosaic website. We're not just about demand created through incidents and problems, folks. We haven't been for a very long time. This particular strategic model, for me, has always resonated really nicely with the aims and goals of IT service management. It's based originally on the idea of achieving market leadership. As service providers, I believe that's exactly what we should always be striving for, is always having services that are considered market leading. The three elements of the strategy, or the model, should be considered together, but typically one of them will take the lead when we're looking at creating market leadership. We're going to look at each one in turn in a moment. And we're also going to think a little bit about how the elements of ITIL version 5 actually play into each of these strategies. Because the theme, or part of the theme, is relevance. And as I was looking at where ITIL 5 was coming from, and I was looking at this model, one thing that struck me is how nicely all of the elements in ITIL version 5 fit into every single one of these three strategic focuses for market leadership. So let's start with customer intimacy. This particular focus is based on understanding your customer to a very, very deep degree. It's about building that ongoing, enduring relationship. It's about building trust. Trust is a really small word with massive implications. Difficult to build, takes time, takes effort. Really easy to break. One hammer blow on the piggy bank of trust, and out it flows. Creating those relationships, establishing products and services that are matched to the needs of our customers, that we are really trying to understand not only what the products and services are, but the experience that that customer is going to find truly beneficial and valuable is really key. Thinking about how we move services into bundles so that they're more customer specific, more relevant to our customers is key. Now, ITIL version 5, there's a number of books. The diagram I popped up briefly earlier on covers them. We're going to cover them in more detail later on, folks. But if we're looking at customer intimacy, then these are the elements that we think, or I think in version 5 might well be useful. First of all, it's all about the experience. Customer intimacy, thinking about what will be relevant, useful, valuable, what will engage, what will delight customers in terms of the experience, what will be relevant, what will matter to them if we're designing services from a human-centric perspective. Absolutely key. Such a big thing that's coming on now, human-centric design of services. The experience aspect of version 5 majors very much on something which I think is key to customer intimacy. Creating products that we can align and keep aligned with the needs of our organization. Using agile and high velocity ways of working. The product element of version 5, understanding and making sure that what we're delivering is aligned at the right time and is delivering on the financial goals that we need to achieve. The service element of version 5, making sure that our services are also relevant to our customer needs, folks. Making sure that the way that we actually deliver services, not just from a strategic perspective, but tactically and operationally, is also aligned with the needs and goals of our customers as well. There are a number of practices which I could reference here. I don't really want to get into a massive list reading exercise, if that's okay. Those of you that know me, that have been in classrooms with me, know that I really do resist reading lists. Yeah? I don't think it particularly helps people engage. However, we can sometimes get this wrong, can't we? So we've got another couple of, they are really ugly, these people, aren't they? Yeah. When Mr. Wilkinson drew these, he really wasn't trying to endear us, was he? So, IT thinks it doesn't need to understand the business to make a business case. That feels like the opposite of customer intimacy to me. It feels like an anti-pattern, which we definitely don't want to fall into, folks. So, let's not go down that road. Oops. The product leadership strategy. We're all about product quality here and service quality. Having something which is better than our competitors can deliver. Outperforming other offerings, whether that's services that we've already offered, whether that is services which our competitors are offering. It doesn't really matter. I've long said to organizations that I've worked with, always think that you're in competition at the very least with yourself and with everybody else that's out there. Yeah. Yes, we may have the advantage of the incumbent if we're an internal service provider, but that doesn't mean that there aren't organizations out there that won't be coming in trying to do what we do, bigger, better, faster and cheaper. Yeah. Complacency doesn't particularly sit well, I would suggest. We've got very similar thinking when we look at version 5. Experience. Is our experience superior to that which is already in existence, potentially from services that we're already offering? Or is it superior to that which is available from our competitors? From the product perspective, leveraging the new end-to-end digital product and service lifecycle help us really achieve our product leadership aims and goals. Trying to assure that our service delivery activities are top-notch. Yeah, they're market leading. A lot of the things that we do in service management are not necessarily different to what we see in a lot of other organizations, but are we doing them bigger and better? Let's not do it like this, folks. So, we have a product. Let's give away something which is completely irrelevant just to try and get people to engage with us. That's not doing it better.
Sorry, it's mine.
Oh, no, it's all right. There's that much going on in here. There's a camera, there's 2 sets of mics, there's God knows what. I was just worried that something had broken there for a minute. Andy, what have you done to the camera?
I touched it.
I'm sure you have. I mean, I'm kind of hoping that you haven't, but that red light suggests otherwise, which is a damn shame because the camera puts pounds on, and I don't need any more. The third strand of our strategic model, folks, operational excellence. Making sure that we deliver customer expectations by being as effective and as efficient as we can be. With this strand, always thinking, are we meeting customer needs? Are we getting rid of waste? Doing work that is irrelevant? Again, I'm minded to come back to the end-to-end digital product and service life cycle that version 5 brings with it as being something which I think is really key, because operational excellence starts with making sure that what we're delivering is actually of superior quality in the first place. We don't want that failure demand. I know I keep coming back to that phrase, but it really stuck with me and I really didn't like it. Yeah, we do so much more than that, but anyway. Very similar thinking, folks. These 4 elements of the version 5 canon, incredibly important to us. An operational experience that drives people to want to use things like automated solutions. Having the right product, which is of suitable quality, so that it actually supports our organization's activities. Making sure that from a service perspective, they're relevant, folks. I mean, we could go down that road, folks. I'm not entirely sure that we really want to, but nevertheless, anybody who's ever run a waterfall project, I think we can probably all recognise what happens there, can't we? What happened to the testing? It got left to the end. If we did it, there's a couple of nodding heads there. Yeah, we love a bit of testing when it's done properly, don't we? So, folks, one of the questions that I'm going to encourage you to think about is actually which of these strategies would be most appropriate within your organization. Which one will help you achieve your goals? Remember, it's one but not at the expense of the others. but thinking about the direction of travel, the overarching strategic approach, rather than just focusing on how do we fix things when they go wrong, is something which I really wanted to be the major thrust of this session, folks. So. Now, to support that, we have ITIL version 5. I'm going to get in trouble now because I call it ITIL because the first person I ever spoke to about this called it ITIL. Yeah? Now, let's do a quick straw poll a minute. Who calls it ITIL? Who calls it ITIL? I am definitely in trouble looking at the back of the room. So ITIL version 5 then. Now, I've put the qualification scheme back up. I glossed over it a little bit earlier on. But I know some of you are here to learn a bit more about what version 5 looks like. So it would be remiss of me not to talk about it. So, have a quick look at the post-its at the back there. There was definitely version 5, what's in it? So let's talk about this. First of all, just in terms of the nature of the framework and the content, then you'll recognize some of the elements that are here. There'll be many, many foundationers here in the room, I've no doubt. So, and guess what? We've still got a foundation book. The foundation book covers lots of key elements, which I'll talk about in a moment. So I've got slides coming up on all of these. Above that, one of the things which some of you will probably already have spotted, particularly those of you that have already been down the version 4 road, in terms of the publications and the courses, is the retitling and restructuring and addition and enhancement of the framework with the 4 core books for the managing professional having been updated, folks. So where we had create, deliver, support, driving stakeholder value, high velocity IT, direct plan and improve, we've got publications which are very much now structured around specific areas of delivery, specific job roles, clarity around the elements of the framework, where they're useful, valuable, which roles would benefit from them, has been, I believe, a key driver of the update from ITIL 4 to version 5. We'll talk more about those managing professional courses in just a moment. Some of you may have done some of the new practitioner courses, things like Monitor, Support, Fulfill, the practice-based courses that are on the left-hand side there. Plan, Implement, Control, Collaborate, Assure and Improve. They remain largely the same. The one I'm actually most excited about, because it takes me back to 2016. So we used to have a book that I still recommend even now, and I'm thank God I can stop recommending it. Actually stop looking at this going, you shouldn't be recommending that book, stop it. Who remembers the old ITIL version 3 practitioner guide? Any of you ever read that one? Well, of course you two did. I hope it says something that even to this day, with some of that having been rolled into 4, I still think that book is really good. I don't know how you feel about it, Roman. Yeah, so, but I don't have to recommend it anymore because we've got the ITIL transformation book, which supersedes it and brings the advice and guidance absolutely bang up to date. So this, I think, is brilliant because it means that we've got practical advice and guidance on the implementation of IT service management, which all the different organizations that I speak to, that's one of the things that they say is, and how do we make this work for us? Yeah, really, really, really important. So it's one of the best things about this job. I've been at Quanta now 26 years nearly, god damn. Yeah, stop it. But it's not one job, it's lots of little jobs with lots and lots and lots of really great organizations. But there's common themes. Relevance is a common theme. How do we keep it relevant? How do we make it useful? Yeah. How do we implement it? So, that transformation book was, in no small part, one of the reasons why I think that word relevance came back to me. How do you actually make the framework really useful and valuable within the organisation? Now, a brief run through. There will be time for questions and we're going to be around all day, so if you have more questions about any of these, then obviously please do ask later. So I shall keep this brief because I thought this was only going to run for half an hour. I thought I'm never going to have enough material to fill all the time that Jacob has given me. And he looked at me yesterday and went, "Are you sure you're going to get that in at the time?" And now I'm looking at my watch going, I think I'm out of time. So the foundation. I think one of the key things about this is that it keeps a lot of all the really good stuff from foundation that you folks may recognise, but it introduces the end-to-end life cycle, focuses on the principles. It's still doing the job you would expect it to, though, folks. It is your grounding. Personally, when I saw the new version of the foundation, my take on it was, this is a springboard to every other direction that service management can take you. It really is laying the groundwork for the follow-on courses such as product, making sure we understand the life cycle, the principles, the service course and book, how services are created and delivered consistently, dealing with some of the more operational aspects, the experience publication, making sure that we actually create really excellent experiences that really drive value within the organisation. And the strategy book, one of my favourites actually, not surprisingly given what I chose to talk about this morning, trying to get organisations to think about their strategy, being more proactive about what is required within the organisation from products and services, looking at products and services from a portfolio perspective, thinking about making sure that we have got the right mix or catalogue of services that will drive that value within the organisation, and making sure strategically that we are set up as a service provider, we're making the best use of the right resources within the organisation, that our product and service strategies are aligned. And then the transformation book. How do we ensure that we're actually making the very best use of our people, our technology, our relationships with our third parties, the way that we go about doing our work with our value streams and processes? This book is, for me, probably the most essential one of the lot. I think it's absolutely key. It's no surprise that in order to achieve any of the track qualifications, you need to complete the transformation course. And I think that is a really good thing about the way that this has now been structured. I mentioned the practice manager courses earlier on. They remain the same, covering the same practices. Monitor, support and fulfill still covers those operational practices. Plan, implement and control still covers things like change enablement, deployment management, release management. And collaborate, assure and improve, service level management, relationship management, really, really key considerations. Now I'm just pausing on each of these because the video is going to be available afterwards, so rather than me spending forever reading lists of practices at you, you'll be able to stop and pause and have a look at those and ask questions afterwards. But actually, I think that's probably everything that I wanted to say in this session, folks. So what I'm hoping that I might have done, I live in hope rather than expectation, is perhaps, first of all, conveyed a little bit about where version 5 is coming from, a little bit about the thoughts. Certainly, what I think, from my experience, have been key touchstones for me and things that I always try and get across to my customers, people that I'm working with service management, and the importance of trying to think a little bit more strategically. Strategy is a massive subject. And Jacob, I'm blaming you, gave me an hour tops, and he said I've got to have time for questions as well. So I think that's probably it from me. So folks, thank you very much for your patience. Thank you for listening. Does anybody have any questions for me?